Hey, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and make a disclaimer. First off, my daughter is home today. She came home sick from school. I don't think she was that sick, but anyway, so she's home. Plus, I have two dogs and cats. And so if we get interrupted, I apologize. Secondly, I have notes written down about what I'm going to talk about, and they're right over here. So if you see me looking that way, that's what I'm looking at because you don't want me just talking off the hat because I'll either not know what to say or I'll just keep talking and rambling like I am now. So let's get on with it. So, first off, I actually really enjoyed this chapter. It reminded me of one of my undergrad classes that I took at King, which was constitutional law. I really enjoyed that class. As funny as that sounds, because one of the big things that we got to do was write case briefs on older Supreme Court decisions. Well, some older and some somewhat newer. So to me, this was very interesting. So on to this class to talk about it. So I'm really glad that Dr. Edwards did go over the standard of review a little more in depth than what the textbook went into. I sort of got it, sort of didn't. So I'm just really glad that he went back over that and kind of helped clarify that a little bit more. Um, so I wasn't really sure what other questions to ask about with this chapter because it was all I think it's all kind of straightforward. There's not much there to question. One thing that I thought was interesting was the issue highlight that was in the book on pages 69 and 70, where it was discussing search and seizure and unreasonable and reasonable search and seizures. So I was in law enforcement for 20 some years, still, I guess technically I'm still in law enforcement. Um, but that's huge. That's part of what we do is we search, we seize. That's what we do. So of course for law enforcement, that is an extremely important part of the Constitution that we have to know. And of course, with the Supreme Court decisions coming down, sometimes it feels like knowing what is appropriate search and seizure and what's reasonable and what's unreasonable is about as clear as mud. So sometimes that's something that we all need a little bit of refresher in. So one thing that I found particularly interesting and was wondering what other people's opinions were on this was the number 3 point in this was if search and seizure is found to be unreasonable, what do we do about it? So in the US, in most cases, if evidence is presented at a trial and defense can prove that this evidence was obtained through an illegal search or seizure, that evidence is then taken out. It's not allowed in the trial. The jurors can't take this into account. It can't be used. So that's the way it's mostly done. But then in the text, it also says that many countries do not use the exclusionary rule, and instead they find other ways to punish police misconduct. I find that really interesting because me being in law enforcement, I believe that number one, we have our Constitution. We need to live by that. Search and seizure should be reasonable. If it's not, it should not be used against them. However, I mean, there are certain rules that are in there that's a little different. If the Supreme Court or if a court finds that evidence that's being presented and was found through an illegal search and seizure, but if it would have eventually be found, they might allow that. But my question is, what do you guys think about that? To me, it's almost like, uh, and I've heard this saying so many times. It's kind of like asking forgiveness instead of permission, with allowing evidence that was obtained possibly through an illegal search and seizure. So personally, I think that the way that it is done with the courts now is the way that it should be. Um, I feel like that there would be a lot of police misconduct conducted during investigations to obtain evidence that may possibly not even have anything to do with it, but just because they know that they might be able to get it into the trial, but they might have some sort of repercussions afterwards. So that's kind of what I'm wondering everyone else's thought on that. So I hope this is what we were supposed to do with this discussion. If not, I'll try better next time. So, can't wait to see everyone else's discussion posts and talk to you guys later. See ya.